Sleeping Beauty, trouble in the forest. Raspberries again? Merryweather frowned at her bowl. The fairies and Briar Rose were just sitting down to a tasty breakfast in their cottage. Of course, Briar Rose didn't know that her aunts were fairies, or that she was really a princess. For 16 years, Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather had raised Briar Rose in secret. As long as she was hidden in the forest, she was safe from the evil fairy Maleficent. Usually the good fairies were cheerful, but this morning Merryweather was a bit grumpy. "I like blueberries," Merryweather complained. "Why can't we have more of those?" "You know perfectly well why," Flora replied. "There aren't any blueberry bushes for miles." "I could go pick blueberries," Briar Rose offered. "Oh no, dear," Merryweather quickly replied. The fairies never wanted Briar Rose to stray too far. Merryweather popped a red berry in her mouth. "Raspberries are just fine." But after breakfast, Merryweather was still thinking about blueberries. "Just because Briar Rose shouldn't go far doesn't mean that I can't," she said to herself. Quietly, she picked up her cloak and snuck out of the cottage. "Where in the world is Merryweather?" Fauna asked later. "You don't think she went off on her own to get blueberries?" Flora whispered worriedly. "Oh no," Fauna gasped. "The patch is so far away. What if she gets into trouble?" Flora and Fauna decided to go look for Merryweather. They told Briar Rose to stay home in case Merryweather returned. They wouldn't be gone long, Flora said. Several hours passed. Briar Rose waited and waited. She began to worry. It was late in the afternoon. Her aunts hadn't returned. "I know they said to stay here," she said, "but this is so unlike them. I have to go make sure they're all right." A short while later, Briar Rose was walking through the forest. Her animal friends scampered up to her. They thought she was coming to visit. "I'm afraid I can't stay long today," she told them. "I'm looking for some people." "Who?" the owl hooted. "My aunts," Briar Rose answered. "I think they went to find blueberries. Do you know where the blueberry bushes grow?" The animals led Briar Rose down a shady path to a part of the forest she'd never visited. They walked for a long time. Just when Briar Rose was beginning to wonder if they were on the right track, she spotted a bright piece of blue colored cloth dangling from a sharp branch. "This came from Merryweather's cloak," she exclaimed. "We must be on the right path." The animals led Briar Rose to a clearing. She looked around. But there were lots of blueberry bushes, but no ants. "Where could they be?" she asked. Suddenly, two familiar voices called down from above. "Briar Rose, is that you, dear?" Looking up, Briar Rose saw Flora and Fauna caught in a large net that was dangling from a tree branch. "Aunt Flora, Aunt Fauna," Briar Rose called, "what are you doing up there?" Just then, Briar Rose heard another voice. This one was coming from the ground. "Hello? Is anyone up there? Aunt Merryweather?" Briar Rose peered over the edge of a deep hole in the ground. She was partly covered with leaves. Merryweather was at the bottom. "You shouldn't be here. These are hunters' traps," Flora called down. "They're very dangerous." "Don't worry, Aunt Flora," Briar Rose said. "I'll get you down." She began to climb the tree. "Oh no," cried Fauna. "You might hurt yourself." "I'll be careful," Briar Rose promised. The fairies watched nervously as Briar Rose made her way to the tree. The limbs creaked and swayed beneath her feet, but soon she reached the branch that of the net was tied to. "Now hold on while I untie this knot," she called. Thump! The fairies dropped down and landed on the soft grass. They were free. Next, Briar Rose had to rescue Merryweather, but the hole that Merryweather was very deep. "It's no use, we can't reach her," Flora sighed. "If only our arms were longer," Fauna added. What her aunt said gave Briar Rose an idea. "Our arms might not be long enough, but the net is," she exclaimed. Quickly, Briar Rose dragged the net to the edge of the hole and tossed one end of it down. Merryweather was able to climb up it like a ladder. The fairy smiled proudly at Briar Rose. "You rescued us all," Merryweather exclaimed. "But now we must hurry home, dear," Flora said. "It's not safe this far from the cottage." Clump, clump, clump. Suddenly the sound of hooves echoed through the forest. "Oh no, someone's coming," Flora gasped. "It must be the hunters. They're coming back to check their traps." "Really?" asked Briar Rose. She looked up curiously. The only people Briar Rose knew were her aunts. She couldn't help feeling a little excited about meeting someone new. But Flora quickly pulled her along. "Come, child, we must hide," she warned. Briar Rose and the fairies quickly ducked behind the biggest, thickest blueberry bush they could find. A moment later, 2 hunters rode into the clearing. "What happened to our traps?" asked the man with a thick black beard. "It looks like something sprained them," the other said. He picked up the empty net. "But how did it get out? Where did it go?" They looked around the clearing for clues. Suddenly, the black-bearded hunter bent down. He picked up Merryweather's blueberry basket. "I'll bet whoever left this set off our traps," said the black-bearded hunter. "It looks like a peasant girl's basket. I wonder where she went." Behind the bush, the 3 fairies gulped. They didn't want the hunters discovering Briar Rose. They needed to sneak away as fast as they could. The fairies looked at one another, worried. How could they get away without the hunter seeing them? Just then, Briar Rose spotted her owl friend. That gave her an idea. She pointed to the man and made a flappy motion to the owl. Then she put her fingers to her lips and winked. The owl understood at once. He quickly flew out over the clearing above the hunters' heads. Come out," the hunters called. "We know you're here. There's nowhere need to hide." "Hoo!" came the reply from the opposite side of the clearing. "Did you hear that?" exclaimed the black-bearded hunter. He thought the owl was a person. It came from that way," the other said. "Let's go." In a flash, they were off, chasing the owl. Once they were gone, Briar Rose and the fairies sneaked out from behind the bush and made their way home safe and sound. Back at the cottage, the fairies couldn't stop smiling at Briar Rose. "I don't know what we would have done without you," Flora said. "You were very brave," Flora added. No more sneaking off for any of us," Merryweather sighed. "I'm sorry," she said. "I guess it serves me right that I didn't get any blueberries." Suddenly, Briar Rose grinned. She pulled Merryweather's basket out from behind her back. It was filled with blueberries. "After such an exciting adventure," Briar Rose said, "how could we settle for anything less than blueberries?" The end.